Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. My name's Andrew and I'm from the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, where I want to tell you about a great program that we have to offer, the Fisher Cats Reading Challenge, presented by Eversource. So, the Reading Challenge program is where you read 5 books and you get 2 free tickets to a Fisher Cats game. How awesome is that? Now, let me ask you out there, do you read every day? Well, if you think you don't know, I'll tell you that you do. It's sort of like breathing. Every day, we read street signs, the cookbook, maybe when we're making dinner, or anybody play video games out there? Well, guess what? You're reading the buttons, the manual, how to beat the bad guys or be the good guy. Every day we are reading. And like I said, it's just like breathing. We don't even know we're doing it. And it's so important to keep up reading. The more you read, the more you learn. So today, I would love to read you a book. It's one of my favorite. It's called Just a Dream. Now, the same person who wrote Just a Dream is the same author who wrote The Polar Express. And that is a great book too. So, let's start it off. So, Just a Dream by Chris Van Allsburg. Just a Dream. As usual, Walter stopped at the bakery on his way home from school. He bought one large jelly-filled donut. He took the pastry from his bag, eating it quickly as he walked along. He licked the red jelly from his fingers, and he crumpled up the empty bag and threw it at the fire hydrant. At home, Walter saw Rose, the little girl next door, watering a tree she just had planted. "It's my birthday present," she said proudly. Walter couldn't understand why anyone would want a tree for a present. His own birthday was just a few days away. "I'm not getting some plant," he told Rose. I personally would love a plant. It's almost like a goldfish. You feed it every day, take care of it, and watch it grow. After dinner, Walter took out the trash. 3 cans stood next to the garage. 1 for bottles, 1 for cans, and 1 for everything else. As usual, Walter dumped everything into 1 can. He was too busy to sort through the garbage, especially when there's something good on the television. The show that Walter was so eager to watch was about a boy who lived in the future. The boy flew over in a tiny airplane that he parked on the roof of his house. He had a robot and a small machine that could make any kind of food, but with a push of a button. I don't know about you, but I would make some pancakes, maybe some waffles, maybe some ice cream. Walter went to bed wishing he lived in the future. He couldn't wait to have his own tiny airplane, a robot to take out the trash, and a machine that could make jelly donuts by the thousands. When he fell asleep, his wish came true. That night, Walter's bed traveled to the future. Okay. Whoa. Is this the future? Let's see. It looks like a trash. Okay. Walter woke up in the middle of a huge dump. A bulldozer was pushing a heap of bulging trash bags towards him. "Stop," he yelled. The man driving the bulldozer put his machine in neutral. "Oh, sorry," he said. "Didn't see you there." Walter looked up at the distant mountains of trash and saw half-buried houses. "Do people really live here?" he asked. "Not anymore," answered the man. A few feet away from his bed was an old rusty street sign that read Floral Avenue. "Oh no," gasped Walter. He lived on Floral Avenue. The driver revved up his bulldozer. "Well," he shouted back, "back to work." Walter pulled the covers over his head. This can't be the future, he thought. I'm sure it's just a dream. And he went back to sleep. But not for long. Okay. Whoa. See some trees here? Wonder what's this all about. Walter peered over the edge of his bed, which was caught in the branches of a tall tree. Down below, he could see 2 men carrying a large saw. "Hello," Walter yelled out. "Hello to you," they shouted back. "You're going to cut down this tree, are you?" Walter asked. But the woodcutters didn't answer. They took off their jackets, rolled up their sleeves, and got to work. Back and forth, they pushed the saw, slicing through the trunk of Walter's tree. "You must need this tree for something important," Walter called down. "Oh, yes," they said, "very important." Then Walter noticed lettering on the woodcutters' jackets. He could just make out the words, "Quality Toothpick Company." Walter sighed and slid back under his blankets until... Whoa! I thought we were traveling towards a future, but it looks like a factory? Okay. Walter couldn't stop coughing. His bed was balanced on the rim of a giant smokestack. The air was filled with smoke that burned his throat and made his eyes itch. All around him, dozens of smokestacks built thick clouds of hot, foul smoke. A workman climbed one of the stacks. "What is this place?" Walter called out. "This is the maximum strength medicine factory," the man answered. "Gosh," said Walter, looking at all the smoke. "What kind of medicine do they make here?" "Wonderful medicine," the workman replied, "for burning throats and itchy eyes." Walter started coughing again. "I can get you some," the man offered. "No thanks," said Walter. He buried his head in his pillow, and when his coughing stopped, he fell asleep. But then, okay, it's like a bed and some snowflakes. Whoa! Okay. So he's peering over his bed, and I see a giant hotel on some mountains. Okay. Snowflakes fell on Walter. He was high in the mountains. A group of people wearing snowshoes and long fur coats hiked past his bed. "Where are you going?" Walter asked. "To the hotel," one of them replied. Walter turned around and saw an enormous building. A sign on it read, "Hotel Everest." "Is that a hotel?" asked Walter. "On the top of Mount Everest?" "Yes," said one of the hikers. "Isn't it beautiful?" "Well," Walter began, but the group didn't wait for an answer. They waved goodbye and marched away. Walter stared at the flashing yellow sign, then crawled back beneath the sheets. But there was more to see. I'm sure you out there have climbed Mount Everest. Absolutely. Oh, so we go from the mountains and it looks like maybe a lake, a river, or an ocean? Okay. And Walter's there. See some partying going on a boat. What's this about? Walter's hand was wet and cold. When he opened his eyes, he found himself floating on the open sea, drifting towards a fishing boat. The men on the boat were laughing and dancing. "Ship ahoy!" Walter shouted. The fishermen waved to him. "What's the celebration for?" he asked. "We've just caught a fish," one of them yelled back. "Our second one this week." They held up their small fish for Walter to see. "Aren't you supposed to throw the little ones back?" Walter asked. But the fishermen didn't hear him. They were too busy singing and dancing. Walter turned away. Soon the rocking of the bed put him to sleep, but only for a moment. Whoa, okay. I don't know if I like this future. What about you? Looks like a highway, a bunch of cars, and there's Walter there. Okay. A loud shrieking horn nearly lifted Walter off his mattress. He jumped up. There were cars and trucks all around him, horns honking loudly, creeping along inch by inch. Every driver had a phone in one hand and a big cup of coffee in the other. When the traffic stopped completely, the honking grew even louder. Walter could not get back to sleep. Hours passed, and he wondered if he'd be stuck on this highway forever. He pulled up his pillow tightly around his head. This can't be the future, he thought. Where are the tiny airplanes? The robots! The honking continued into the night until finally, one by one, the cars became quiet, and their drivers and Walter went to sleep. But his bed traveled on. What do we got here now? Looks like a horse with Walter? Whoa! So from mountains to the ocean, highways, and now the desert? Okay, this is some crazy future. Walter looked up. A horse stood right over his bed, staring directly at him. In the saddle was a woman wearing cowboy clothes. "My horse likes you," she said. "Good," replied Walter, who wondered where he'd ended up this time. All he could see was a dull yellow haze. "Son," the woman told him, spreading her arms in front of her. "This is the mighty Grand Canyon." Walter gazed into the foggy distance. "Of course," she went on. "With all this smog, nobody's gotten a good look at it for years." The woman offered to sell Walter some postcards that showed the canyon of the old days. "They're really pretty," she said. But he couldn't look. "It's just a dream," he told himself. "I know I'll wake up soon, back in my room." But he didn't. Look at this. Some clouds. You ever look up at a cloud and be like, I could take a nap there? And maybe that's what's Walter doing there. And there's a duck and some more ducks. Look like they're flocking somewhere. Walter looked out from under his sheets. His bed was flying through the night sky. A flock of ducks passed overhead. One landed on the bed. And to Walter's surprise, he began to speak. "I hope you don't mind," the bird said, "if I take a short rest here. The ducks have been flying for days, looking for a pond where they've always stopped to eat." "I'm sure it's down there somewhere," Walter said, though he suspected something awful might have happened. After a while, the duck waddled to the edge of the bed, took a deep breath, and flew off. "Good luck," Walter called to him. Then he pulled the blanket over his head. "It's just a dream," he whispered, and he wondered if it would ever end. And then finally, let's see what we're getting into. Okay. This is more like it. Walter's bed returned to the present. He was safe in his room again, but he felt terrible. The future he'd seen was not what he expected. The robots and the little airplanes didn't seem very important anymore. He looked out his window at the trees and lawns in the early morning light, and then he jumped out of bed. He ran outside and down the block, still in his pajamas. He found the empty jelly donut bag he'd thrown at the fire hydrant the day before. Then Walter went back home, and before the sun came up, he sorted all the trash by the garbage. That's nice of him. A few days later on Walter's birthday, all his friends came over for cake and ice cream. They loved his new toys, the laser gun set, the electric yo-yo, and the inflatable dinosaurs. "My best present," Walter told them, "is outside." And then he showed them the gift that he picked out that morning, a tree. After the party, Walter and his dad planted the birthday present. When he went to bed, Walter looked out his window. He could see the tree, and the tree that Rose had planted on her birthday. He liked the way they looked side by side. Then he went to sleep, but not for long, because that night, Walter's bed took him away again. Wow. But this looks a lot better. Look at that. Not bad. When Walter woke up from his bed, he was standing in the shade of two tall trees. The sky was blue. Laundry hanging from the clothesline flapped in the breeze. A man pushed an old motorless lawnmower. This isn't the future, Walter thought. It's the past. "Good morning," the man said. "You found a nice place to sleep." "Yes, I have," Walter agreed. There was something very peaceful about the huge trees next to his bed. The man looked up at the rustling leaves. "My great-grandmother planted one of these trees," he said, "when she was a little girl." Walter looked up at the leaves too and realized where his bed had taken him. This was the future after all, but a different kind of future. There were still no robots or tiny airplanes. There weren't even any clothes dryers or gas-powered lawnmowers. Walter laid back and smiled. "I like it here," he told the man. Then he drifted off to sleep in the shade of two giant trees, the trees he and Rose had planted so many years ago. And that's just the dream. Takeaways from the book. Whatever we do affects tomorrow, good or bad. So the next time you have that jelly donut, make sure you throw it in the trash or recycle. Don't litter. Take care of the beautiful granite state of New Hampshire. We have so lucky to be here and to be able to live in the luxury that we have, with the beautiful wildlife, the lakes, the rivers, and the mountains. It is so awesome and a pleasure to be here, and a privilege. So make sure we're taking care of our environment, especially here in New Hampshire and all around the world. Now, remember, kids, if you read 5 books, you get 2 free tickets courtesy of Eversource Energy. So, are you going to be a part of the reading challenge? We'll see you at the ballpark.